Yeah, Sarah said you had picked it all up.
Okay, 6 o'clock, on in order.
Motion to accept minutes from May 2nd, 2023.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Ex officio reports.
Well, the budget committee had a meeting and reviewed all the budgets, and we'll be meeting again on the 20th of June.
And the planning board hasn't
Oh,
set.
no, not until the 20th of July. I lied. That's 2 months.
You're not meeting in June?
No,
Nothing new with the planning board. Highway has started grading, which is good. Still having a little difficulty getting some part-time or full-time help, any help at all. We may actually want to take a look and see how we can recruit somebody to help them out, because we've got one person going through CDL, so he's training. We've pretty much got, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but Steve and Jeff, and Steve's on a part-time basis. It's a little difficult to have a highway crew with a full-timer and a part-timer during springtime. So if we can have some thoughts on how to recruit somebody, it would be wonderful. Or if anybody knows anybody that has some history behind road work or equipment, and maybe talk to them and encourage them to come and apply. That's about it.
Fire department, I didn't make the meeting, wasn't feeling that well. Ambulance had a packed crew, they had at least one more ambulance crew. Well, they had another member join. Pretty much it. Slow week. Okay. Public comment.
I have a question.
Shoot.
In the last minutes that you guys just approved, it says there was a charitable exemption application that wasn't on the last agenda. What was it, can I ask what that was for? Those are not, I know those are not private, not charitables.
What else is on the charitable one? Wasn't it? Hold on.
it was the Brown Church.
Is that what it was? I can't remember.
Because that's in here for this week.
Yeah, this is the religious exemption.
So,
I think the only other one that ever comes up in town is MVP.
yeah, I think it might have been, wasn't?
Oh, we signed that, isn't it?
Well, we signed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the one. Pretty sure.
It doesn't say, that's why I wondered, because it wasn't on the agenda either.
So there were a couple of, correct me if I'm wrong, were there a couple of different ones? But they were both from MVP?
No,
2 different pieces of property? No?
That's not MVP.
There was MVP, yeah, no, they have three.
Yeah, that was MVP.
Or two actually, no, you're right, two, because one's not, one can't be, so two. Kimball Mill and the Meeting House.
Yeah, the houses.
Thank you.
Okay, comments now. No. Okay, we move on to new business.
That's the first thing in there.
Trustee. The library, the 3 trustees of the trust fund are requesting the funds to attend attached training by NHMA in Concord. We would much prefer the in-person training. The cost would be $270. We need to register ahead of time, so we'd appreciate a prompt reply. pay for, training for them.
So do they not have a budget for training?
Budget's like what, $100?
They don't have a budget.
Oh, you don't? So, yeah.
Why do they not have a budget,
The trustees of the trust fund, they generally don't have anything to spend,
other than going to training?
right?
Well, there hasn't been any training, so.
They went, well, last year they made the same request, for, Deb and Mary to go.
Here last year.
We paid for both of them. Mary went, Deb didn't.
Hey, look, it's education. I think that if they wanna go and do the right thing, then we should probably try and come up with the money.
They should probably, put a budget in for training purposes.
There's a line item in the selectmen's budget for training for that kind of thing.
Oh, is
We
there?
actually, we took the, I think it was just miscellaneous, it was labeled last year, we called it, we changed the name of it to training specifically
How
because
much
these
is-
requests would come in.
How much is the line item?
Top of my head, I wanna say 500, but I'm not certain, but I can pull it up before you're done
Okay.
here.
Well, if you can pull it up, then what are we looking for, 3 times 270?
270 total.
Okay. 270 total, alright.
Yeah, so
Two pay budgets. I'd apologize for being slow, but it's not like you have anything else going on at the moment anyway, right? Training, line item is $300.
Just enough.
Oh.
Motion to allow them to spend $270 to cover
Second.
training.
third.
Wish some of the other ones would go.
Want to do a timber tax one?
Yep, timber tax going lower.
Two of them there.
That's what they took off in one of the other town.
Have that one.
While I do this, Guy Dodge has a notification, or talk to Sarah about it. It's just going to use the existing septic, existing driveway. so-
Right, and I know both are brand new. I'm familiar with the location.
Motion to pass, to approve the notification.
7.
Me too.
septic plan attached, anything?
Isn't that up in the back?
So,
I think it was, weren't they going off the ones that already had? I think it was pre-approved.
yeah, is there,
They're using the existing one that already
I
had.
believe so.
so what do you do in that case? What do you do in that case? Do you typically show the existing septic system? Does it need to be updated to the newer home? In other words, if you have a one-bedroom system, but you're putting in a four-bedroom home, do you have to update it?
Yes, if that were the case, yes.
How do we know if it's not attached?
I think, did Sarah write down on the front page the septic approval number? Or am I thinking of John? I know she did on Johnny's.
Land approval, use sewer, gray water, yes. So we have an approval number, but in my head, I don't know if that's a two-bedroom,
No,
and then we're
yes,
going to a four-bedroom, or,
right.
I don't really know any of that.
Sarah probably looked at it, but
Okay.
I didn't. I'm done micromanaging all that.
Where's this?
Let's see, we got this. Well, it's fairly new, I guess, septic approval was 2021. Looks like I'm getting the numbers correct, it's a two-bedroom. What are they planning on putting in?
This one,
Same.
Meadow?
Same type of home, same, remove the double wide, put a double wide back on, looks like there was a two-bedroom system, we just don't know what the new double wide has.
Here's the driveway permit. Pages stick together. This is for approval for operation, this other one.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know New Hampshire state law when it comes to whether or not it needs to be updated. I mean, it's relatively new, it was 2021, so.
The owner concerns me.
Let's take a look.
Push it off to the next meeting.
Let's table it till next week.
Okay.
Next meeting.
I'll make a conscious effort to
Too
look
much
into that.
time.
Oh, that's there. Gene, come on up.
Howdy.
Hello.
I love the new look. The
Thanks.
summer, working for you, definitely. Jean Mitchell, Main Street. I'm here about the composting toilet ordinance, but I also wanted to make a point of giving kudos to the board, because whether folks know it or not, the most recent round of funding released from the state to Grafton County, the town of Grafton had over
Do
95.
you mind sitting down?
Oh, sure. Had over 95% participation by its department, so thank you. Awesome. Record number of going after funds, that's mint. Thank you for aggressively going after free money. We like that as taxpayers. Real quick, ordinance on composting toilet. I do run agritourism camping, so I kind of sort of was checking it out when I saw it. Unfortunately, it's not enforceable because it goes against the EPA regs. I know the argument's been that solid waste runoff, is a concern, totally get that. But the leftover material, according to the EPA and the USDA, can be used on lawns, in traditional compost piles, around fruit and nut trees, and in gardens with non-edible plants. In being an agricultural community, a lot of farms are familiar with malagnite as a fertilizer. If folks are not familiar with malagnite, it is the leftovers from the rendering plant from the dead animals. They can be used for dog food and such, mixed with the solid gray matter from waste treatment. It's been an improved fertilizer for years, and I believe the only guidelines are don't go over 5 tons per acre. So, right now we kind of have an ordinance that is more restrictive than rotting animal corpse. So we just need to adjust it, that's all.
Steve,
Playing health officer today,
you got to tell us all.
so we have something new from DES. I'll read the letter that I've got from the health officer liaison, and I'll explain a little bit. Response to questions we have received about composting toilets. I want to share with you information from the NHDES Wastewater Engineering Bureau. At this current time, the NHDES does not have any written rules on composting toilets. They currently are requesting it if anyone is seeking to recycle residual compost from these toilet systems, that they contact the NHDES to obtain a batch sludge quality certificate to safely and compliantly spread the compost. If they choose not to do it, within one of these systems, then they can bag the waste as long as it's free of liquid and dispose of it as solid waste. They do not ask if the person does want to go this route to inform their solid waste provider of this practice, so that operators are aware of the fecal matter waste and the risk associated. So you'd have to find out from the dump and the people hauling the trash whether you want to be able to have that or not. Long story short is, you cannot compost anymore without a sludge quality certificate. This is a 3-page document, and basically it's $1,000 to apply for it. You just can't go on the website and apply for it. You have to go through the DES in order to do it. This is something that came up, so I would suggest, the thing about composting toilets is there's internal composting toilets where everything composts on the inside. There's fast ones where there's aerobics, so there's air induced to it, and there's heat induced to it, so you don't have the issue going anywhere. You've also got flammable, or what am I looking for? Flammable internal toilets.
incinerator.
Thank you.
Yeah, the turd burners.
Turd burners, which are apparently are pretty awesome. The problem, and the reason this came up is because we had a request for someone to actually compost raw sewage above ground. Not composted raw sewage above ground, which is why this is done. So it would be my suggestion that we actually, until the DES comes up with something for the, anybody who wants to do the above ground composting before it actually is compost and ready to use, that they get a DES sludge batch certification certificate here. I could write it up to make the addendum, but I think we'd be fools to try to say DES can go, we're not gonna follow the DES rules in this particular case.
So if I hear you correctly, Steve, you're saying that it is somewhat regulated now because of this sludge thing? And you're saying that it's not regulated? Did you know about that?
Yeah, what I'm saying is when you're talking about processing raw sewage above ground versus composting, two different things. And my issue is the setback requirements for said 5 gallons is ridiculous. There's no basis in science for it. I'm not saying you don't need a reg. Like a lot of the towns, if you have a compost, if you want to use a composting toilet, irregardless of what kind it is, it has to be National Sanitation approved. That's a standard, realistic ordinance that people have put in, that if you want to do a composting toilet, it needs to be sanitation approved. And beyond that, because if you go by what DES has put down, now basically you're saying that everybody that's composting kitchen garden waste falls under that requirement, and now everybody's in a compost pile.
That is not true. It's not to do anything with composting. We're talking about human sewage. That's the only thing this goes for, composting toilets. It has nothing to do with eggs, vegetables. You can compost anything you want there. What we're talking about is doing your business in a 5-gallon bucket.
Human
Dumping
manure.
it-
I've been reading a book, it's called.
Human manure.
Human manure, exactly.
And I've read, and which is one of the reasons actually someone had passed over a website and I was like, well, it's kind of cool in its own right, in its own space.
Yeah, because
But
I'm
the
not
thing
saying,
is that even now, you just cannot do it. DES has actually said you cannot do it. We're not talking about eggshells. You can compost that all day long. Nobody's stopping you from having bears come by and eat your compost pile. What we're talking about is human waste. That's what the composting toilet ordinance is all about. It's got nothing to do with anything else. It's human waste.
So is that your concern, is eggs and regular household
No.
cum?
no. My concern is that, yes, we need regulation, however, and it needs to be in line with state law, of course, because if not, then we get dragged to court, sue and lose. So instead of creating liability, because liability is expensive, I'm saying defensively, let's put something in place that is in line with the state, but actually makes sense and is realistic. Because there is no way on God's green earth or any other that 5 gallons of solid material, no matter what it is going to travel as far and leach as far as what the regs are saying. That was my only issue with it.
Right, if it's properly composted, properly gone through the proper process, right? I mean, I've been in Grafton a long time. I've seen 55-gallon drums of sewage sitting outside.
Oh, correct, which is not correct. You're, first off, that's not handling waste properly, and that's a totally different situation.
And what do we have for local enforcement, Steve, for that sort of thing? Is
We have the ordinance.
but do you actually physically do anything to oversee approved systems to make sure that people maintain them properly?
We don't have it.
Oh, okay.
Because
We
the
don't
other-
have anybody that's done the actual composting. The reason this was built, the reason this composting ordinance came out was because someone wanted to do, let's see, what was it? Oh. No less, composting bins, 3 feet by 4, 3 feet by 4.5 is what this ordinance was drawn around. Which,
Sounds like a lot more than a 5-gallon bucket. I mean,
it's a lot more
you're
than
talking about a
5
5-gallon bucket of human waste or actual compost?
No, and see, this is the thing, I'm only referring to the composting toilet. Because what happens is, and you know from being in law enforcement, a town does something, it gets upheld, now it becomes precedent, and now it's statute.
Sure.
We are running the risk with our improperly documented setbacks
Okay.
that not only can it be detrimental to the town of Grafton, but now as other municipalities are shopping around trying to find solutions from other towns.
So so your issue seems to be the setback.
Correct.
Let me just- and-
What, the distance for
All
Should
of
be
the,
located minimum of 250 feet from any habitable structure. That particular one?
yeah, when we start to get in,
Shall not be located within 400 feet of any drinking water well. Shall not be located within 400 feet of any property line. Shall not be located closer than 400 feet from any open surface waterway. So all of the setbacks are your issue?
yeah, because you have you have tougher restrictions on a composting toilet than on a 1,500-gallon septic.
The only thing I can think of,
Because I'm not saying we don't need regulations, because no, gone are the days of taking the chamber pot and winging it out the window, absolutely not. Nobody wants to deal with that.
but
It
what-
just needs to be reasonable.
Mhm.
well, and I think part of our reasonable thing has been thrown out the window right now, because I agree, reasonable is one thing. But the way this reads is, there's no 1 quart, there's no 1 pint, there's no 55 gallons. If you want to outdoor compost human waste, you must, from the DES, get a batch sludge quality certificate. They don't even put a limit on this. And I agree that, hey, if you got a quart of something sitting in a 20-acre lot, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. But the fact is like, that's what the state is actually requiring right now. So if we go by your thought process of liability, and we don't follow state regulations, we're gonna be in that much more trouble.
Yeah, but the thing is, where's the setback regs on what they're talking about? Where does it list how many feet from a property line or drinkable water that bin needs to be?
I don't know.
'Cause
because
it's
you're gonna
not
have-
saying
You are
anything.
going to have to get this certificate from DES. So DES is gonna be the ones coming out and saying, yes, you can, or no, you're not. And it's $1,000 application fee in order to get it. And I don't understand why, apparently this is blown up, and I know it was big news. In fact, our ordinance was big news inside the whole health officer realm, because we actually passed it. Because most other health officers were like, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole.
Because it doesn't match fluid dynamics or the science currently in use.
Mhm.
Well, and I will disagree with you that there's a very valid reason to hold things a long way from running water in wells.
There's a reason why I asked about the enforcement portion of it. In other words, I could say that I built a composting toilet, and you could come and look at it, and say it's on a 100 by 100 piece of property.
Mhm.
We didn't have any setbacks. The day that he leaves, I don't comply, I get lazy. I'm the person who has 50 bags of trash out next to my front door because I don't like to go to the dump every Sunday.
Mhm.
How often, I don't know because I haven't gotten that far in my book, but how often and how much work is a composting toilet? It doesn't need to be policed, so to speak, in order to make sure people are doing what they need to do in order to not pollute their neighbors' properties, unless they are ridiculous amount of feet away. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, which I totally get. It just goes back to strong defense is the best offense. When you have absolutely nothing backing up footage and offset.
Sounds
Yeah.
like it's all brand new.
Yep, but yet it's been a long-standing accepted practice to be able to dump rotting animal.
Okay.
Do you see where the conflict comes? Because this has been USDA, FDA approved long-standing, that I can take 5 tons, drop it on 1 acre, right up to the edge of Millbrook, and the environmental impact through the leaching process is literally 0.
I know there is a criminal law that says you can't dump dead animals.
Correct, however, Molognite is a approved fertilizer.
Morganite has already been processed and already gone through the composting section. The problem is not Morganite itself, because that's already gone through the composting and it's ready to be used for fertilizer. The problem is going from raw to that state. That's where your problems lie. Because when you take chicken crap, okay, you can fertilize with it, but you've got to let it cool off. You've got to let it decompose some before you get there. It's the same thing with human waste. Is there's a point where it carries E. coli and all this other mumbo jumbo stuff that I am not an immunologist, so I don't know. But the fact is between the time that it's freshly released till the time it's actually safe, from what I read in this human manure website that I read, is it could be over a year. So what we're talking about is having things that actually could have bacteria that are harmful to people in a composting pit for up to a year. And that's the problem, and that's why they're going after this. That's what this whole batch sludge thing's all about, is they're trying to come up with what to do with it too, I'm sure. But the fact is like, we've got to draw a line somewhere, because if someone's gonna put a 3.5 by 4 foot thing to the west of me 400 feet away, and I gotta smell it all day long, and it's running down the hill towards my well, I'm gonna be mighty pissed about it. And that's the reason for this. It's not to protect you as much as to protect the community and the people around you.
All these distances actually are about the same as spreading cow shit.
Correct, but the setback is the issue. You're requiring something with less mass and a less level of biocontamination traveling over a distance that it's not going to travel. And it's documented that it's not going to travel that far.
Is that
So-
before or after it's composted?
When you take solid waste and you begin the breakdown process through rain, elements, things like that, right? And now it's got to go through the filtering process of going through the root systems, the dirt and the stones. Just like your irrigation for your lawn sprinkler, right? When you go to spread water, you got drag on the line. Your sprinkler will only push your water so far, and then you need a pump to help it. Because that little, that thing called physics in Newton, nasty little Newton, how something moves until it's acted upon. Well, you have the drag of the ground acting upon the movement of the turd, so it's restricting its movement. So you would need a whole lot behind it to get it to travel that far and still remain at a toxic level.
I'm going to stop this now. I got one question to take from Ryan, then we actually have a 6:30 appointment. I gave you extra time because we went over your time and what we were doing. Ryan, you got a question?
Yeah, we're just playing a little fast and loose with definitions of words here. New Hampshire RSA 45A-A:2, definition of sewage. Sewage means water carried waste products from buildings, public or private, together with such groundwater infiltration and surface water as may be present. So compost toilets have nothing to do with sewage.
It's human waste.
Sewage is not defined as human waste. It's water conveyed.
I said human waste, I
Waste
didn't say
products.
sewage.
That's
what I
sewage.
call
Okay. So sewage is not compost toilets, so those need to be not
And
So-
can I ask you, why is that? Why? Is it because of the
DES
lack of
grant.
water?
It's my understanding, the EPA water quality, gives DES the mandate to regulate water carried away, any water carried out of a building. That's what gives them the, purview to do this. So sewage, because it's human waste conveyed by water out of a building, that is not regulated.
So it's because it's mixed with water?
Correct. If it's taken out in the solid form,
Mm-hmm.
out of a building, out of a something, and is composted, that is not sewage. Okay?
So.
No, it's
I don't
shit.
understand. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a pile's a pile, and it's just, you know, we have an unrealistic
I gotta stop. We have to do the next
distance.
meeting. I can't be cutting Cheryl off.
Sure.
Oh, no
That's what I
worries.
wanna talk about.
I know, it needs a big shovel to get cleaned up. Some
You can
piles
look it up
need a
on
bigger
the
shovel.
Website, which
Look into
facts, well,
45-A.
Yep.
Alright, we'll look into it.
I will research what I can, see what we can come up with.
Yeah, Sarah, get you.
Figure out what Steve's talking about, figure out what you're talking
Yes.
about. I completely understand case law and I understand getting sued and that sort of thing, so,
Yeah,
you know, the thing is,
because
whole
we
composting
definitely.
toilet thing is new to me. Even though I was a health officer once upon a time, back then it was totally fine, as far as New Hampshire was concerned.
Yeah, and I mean, it basically just comes down to stuff only travels so far. It doesn't have a power washer behind it shoving it down the road, so we gotta take that into consideration.
Cheryl, come on up. Sorry for the overflow.
Mine doesn't involve me. So my plan B, a GoFundMe, just in case the grant,
Could you speak up a little, please?
the grant didn't work, and there weren't funds. People really got excited about it, and my GoFundMe did really well. I raised enough to buy and plant the 12-foot urban-friendly Norway spruce, drought and salt tolerant. I would like to plant on the green,
Urban-friendly Norway spruce.
12-foot Norway spruce,
There's drought and salt
resistant.
tolerant. How about that?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And you have all the money necessary to plant and
I
purchase the
have
tree?
GoFundMe funds and checks and cash
Mhm.
and flush.
Have you spoken with Ed or the other
I
people?
did speak to Ed.
Yep, is everybody's working good together as far as planting a tree in a certain
We
location?
are all playing very well together, yes.
Okay.
I talked to Ed yesterday, and he seemed on board with it, and
Does
Clint has picked out a really good spot, and he knows his stuff, and he's young and full of energy, and I just want to seize the moment and get that tree in the ground.
I can't think of a reason why I would have a problem with location. I mean, the people who regulate that little piece of property for the town should be able to make that decision, I would think. Unless you guys can, unless there's something in the future that you might have plans for.
I do.
May I ask where?
On the,
Why not on the green, but specifically?
Clint asked me and I told him to go sneak out a spot so we would know where
Is
he
he
would
gonna
think.
do the work? Clint?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes. It's not going to be against the road like the other tree
we
is.
push back
It's going to
further.
be pushed back.
Just so it's not, my concern would be just because I'm working with stones, that it's not close enough that the roots are gonna start heaving once
Oh, no.
that stone.
Yes, no.
So my only issue would be if you pay for the tree and we get the grant, we wouldn't be able to take the grant. Cause we
I
can't
have
really
an answer for
pay
that.
that back.
There are 2 maples dying on the green. Dying. They're just,
Yes,
Dead.
they are.
and that money could go towards, and Clint is all over this as well. He's the tree guy. He would love to replace those 2 maples that are having major issues. I can't figure it out because Brewster's maple is doing super well, and these 2 just, once again, right against the road,
Yeah,
are dying.
the state does like 40 through their plow and just throws salt.
2 oak trees, one lived and one died.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just what you get.
You mind if I ask Maureen what the future plan is?
Go for it.
You said that you had some sort of a plan.
I'd like to see a gazebo there on the
Okay.
green. And if you plant the tree, when we get around to putting the gazebo there, the tree might be in a spot where you might want to put the gazebo.
So can you talk with Ed about that?
Excuse me?
Can you talk with Ed about potential future gazebo and
Yeah.
planting of the tree and that
Ed
sort of
isn't
thing?
in charge of the green though.
Oh, he isn't?
No,
I thought he was.
no.
Oh, who is? Oh,
I vote tree.
so, I think what you're looking for is a go-ahead, because now is the time
Now
to
is the
plant
time
trees.
to plant a tree,
Yeah.
and the other tree is having issues.
And you waited 2 weeks longer, because it's been 2 weeks since the last time we
Right,
spoke.
and so I just would like to get that tree in the ground.
Do you know where the location is? Can you tell us?
I think the last time I talked to Clint, as you're facing the meeting house and the tree that we like, it would be to the right and in on that corner.
Is that anywhere near the future
I think so,
position?
but I'm not positive.
And do we need a tree to shade the gazebo?
I'm pretty sure
Not
that,
a pine tree.
I'm pretty sure that green's big enough for a tree and a gazebo.
It's a fir
Me
tree.
too.
Well, it depends where you, if you put it right where I would like to see the gazebo, then there's a
At your
problem.
house?
Hmm?
At your house?
I have enough gardening to do at my house, thank you.
I kind of like the positioning of the Canaan gazebo. It's kind of on one end, so that if you have a crowd,
Yeah.
and I think that your tree should be, it sounds like it's more on the center to get away from the salt.
Right.
Okay.
I
That
just
sounds all right.
had a quick question, because I know originally they were, rec committee was trying to get a tree that was already grown. They were looking for a mature tree to spade and move and have replanted. That's why it was very expensive. So I wasn't sure if the new tree is just gonna be a regular, it'll get there eventually, or is it the full-size tree that they were looking to put in place? That was my only question.
I'm
There's
concerned
only-
that it's a 12-foot tree.
There's only 8 feet between the tallest tree and what they're going for.
Okay, so it's just gonna be a regular tree that'll grow on its own,
Yeah.
they're not buying it already pre-grown, because you
Yeah, we're
can, that's why I'm
Yeah, we're
asking.
not transplanting a 50-foot pine tree.
Cool beans, that's what I wanted to know, because you can do it, that's
Yeah.
why I was asking.
It's gonna be a little, it'll be a little more
Smaller trees adapt better.
expensive.
Smaller trees adapt better to the
When
ground.
would Clinton be able to start?
As soon as I leave here and give him a check, he'd be so happy. And also, he said that he would take care of mulching it, which is part of the problem with the other trees dying, is it was never, and probably the maples too, it was just kind of like, there you go. So this tree will be well tended too.
Okay.
That's it.
So motion to allow her to plant a tree, where her planting, Ed, I don't know why I keep saying Ed, but, Ed seems to have some knowledge behind it. It sounds like it's out of the way of any future gazebo.
Well, the tree trumps the gazebo, it's up first.
Well, it is here first. Motion to allow him to plant a tree.
Second.
Third.
Is that before or after the tree comes down?
I think that the town could probably take the tree down themselves, at no cost, instead of paying a tree company. I mean, it's not all that heavy of a tree.
Who? Your highway department that doesn't have enough
Yeah.
place?
Or somebody else, you know.
We haven't paid anyone else to do it.
I thought Clint was gonna take the tree.
Yeah.
Well, that was extra money.
Yeah, that was significantly more money.
I just focused on the tree because it seemed like maybe somebody could just cut it down.
I don't know, I just, look, I do, I hate to admit it, but I do have a chipper. I do have, the means of getting rid of a tree. I might be able to get somebody to cut it down for nothing. don't see why a couple of experienced people that work with the town all the time can't go over there with a piece of equipment and tip it over. It doesn't make sense to me to spend thousands of dollars to take down a tree.
Right, right.
I'll chainsaw it.
It's not that big.
Look, I just cut 500 trees, and they all fell in the right direction, so,
501's a curse.
yes. I don't wanna, I mean, look, I'm afraid of electricity now, so. Yeah, I think you can point a tree.
Awesome,
Yeah.
thank you
Or
very
worry
much.
about taking down the tree at different times.
Thank you, everybody,
Just
for
don't
what
put
you
it
do,
in
I
the
appreciate your time.
Spot that the double trees can fall.
Damn, I gotta find it, it's not on top.
Okay, religious tax exemption application for the Millbrook Church. A religious exemption application was submitted by the caretaker of the property. The church resides on parcel 17-720, along with a caretaker cottage. Despite the mischaracterization as parcel 17-720 and 17-720-C, during the recent testimony at a BTLA hearing where the church appealed the town's decision to deny the religious exemption, the caretaker cottage on card number 2 of that last number, it was indicated that the church has not had a full-time pastor since 2020 and are currently down to just 10 to 15 members. While the church currently does not have a full-time pastor, they have indicated that they are in fact holding services both in the church and study center, which was previously described as a parsonage. The study center is in use for religious purposes and therefore it should be afforded a religious exemption for tax year 2023. On parcel 17-720-A, they listed 17-720-C as the parsonage. However, I believe they are referring to the caretaker cottage on 17-720. The caretaker cottage is not in use and occupied for religious purposes and therefore the exemption should be denied for this property. For tax year 2023, they qualify for the church and study center located on a portion of map 17 lot 720 and 17-720A, but are being denied on the caretaker's cottage on a portion of map 17 lot 720. It is worthy to note that there are some services held at the study center, which makes sense given the low membership and cost to operate the church building. Going forward, we will need to keep an eye on these buildings to ensure that they are indeed being used for religious purposes. That's from Avatar,
Where is the study center?
behind the church and.
They're calling Randy Gray's house the study center now. It went from the parsonage to the study
Oh,
center.
yeah, right.
So, Millbrook Church is using the church as the church.
Sometimes.
This,
Yeah,
the other building, they're holding, religious gatherings.
Studies, yeah.
they're going to service both in the church and the study center, which was
When did
previously
they do
used
that?
as a parsonage.
So what does the RSA say when, with religious exemptions? Does it specify how many buildings or how many different,
No.
does it specify how many different gatherings you need to have or services you need to have, say, per year?